Hi, after watching this video, I hope you will be able to understand the example I presented where I show the needs I have faced in the remote teams I participate in and how I solve them using Planner, which is my organization's task management application. To accomplish the tasks I showed you, I also use another tool within the suite provided by my university, which is Microsoft To Do. This combination allows me to accomplish almost everything I need. Let me start by showing you the list of things I would like to be able to do with the task management application. Let me remind you of those needs in my remote teams. It's a long list, but I prefer you to see it all as a whole so you can see the group of needs in black. What I have shown you are the things that Planner efficiently does out of the box without making any adaptations. In red, I have marked the things that Planner cannot do in any way, at least not quickly and conveniently. Of course, this is as of late 2022 when I am recording this video. Some of the things in red may be included in new versions of Planner in the future. Also, some of the things I can currently do may not be available in future versions of Planner. However, this is the current situation as it stands now. In orange, I mark the things I apparently cannot do. However, by adding small tricks that I have put in parentheses, I can overcome the limitations of Planner and get a sufficient service for my needs. Let's look at some of these tricks or things directly within the application. First, I want to explain why I use Microsoft To Do and its necessity. The reason is that the search tool in Planner is very limited and ineffective. If I search using a keyword or tag with the hashtag symbol, Planner should find any card with that text somewhere. However, it doesn't work that way because Planner only searches within the title, which would return no results in this case. However, if the task is assigned to me, it will appear in my Microsoft To Do. It won't show up in my Microsoft To Do list if it's not assigned to me. If the task is assigned to me, then if you notice when I search for the same keyword in Microsoft To Do, it shows me the cards where that text appears. That's why sometimes when I need to search for things, I search in Microsoft To Do because it's easier to find the task or card where the information is located. It doesn't matter if I search using the @ symbol or with the person's name I want to tag or assign the task to. Microsoft To Do can search it very well. However, in Planner, these things are not as efficient. As I said before, let's see it live so you can see how it works. This is the basic way of using Planner in one of the teams I participate in, and in this card, I have given some examples of things I do or little tricks that work for me. For example, the Planner effectively assigns participants, the people you want to be notified when something is set or changed and who will receive an email when something is updated. These participants are listed under participants, but no specific field indicates who is responsible for completing the task on time. So to solve this, I usually add an @ tag with the person's name. Initials can also be used at the beginning of the title. This is one way to indicate who is responsible for the task. By doing this, I can edit the tag to be at Juan and search for it easily later. So instead of listing the responsible person under participants, I could use a tag for that person and filter by the tag later on. Rather than filtering by the tag, I could also search for it. I do this, but you can choose whichever option works best for you. I prefer a tag indicating who is responsible for a task so that I can easily search for and track those cards that require my attention. Knowing precisely who is responsible for each task is helpful, especially when I'm in charge. I haven't been able to solve the inability to send a direct mention or email notification to a user within the Planner using the @ tag. It would be helpful to notify someone directly that they have a task to complete, but unfortunately, that feature isn't available. Instead, we indirectly notify the user using the @ tag, when a direct mention is used, the user can search for all tasks with their name mentioned to see all the tasks they need to complete. If the tasks are closed, there's no need to worry, but if they're open, the user can check what needs to be done. While there is no direct notification, the user can proactively prevent the application from any tasks they need to complete. In summary, I use participants to track who needs to be notified about a task and add tags to indirectly mention users who need to complete a task. When the @ tag is used in the title, it indicates that the user is responsible for completing the task. If individual tasks need to be repeated, you can create separate cards for each task or create a list where everyone has similar tasks. This can be more efficient than creating multiple cards for similar tasks within a larger task. In this case, you can mention who is responsible for each task, and as each task is completed, you can close them out. If you start by creating a list and then decide to move it to a card, you can convert the list item into an independent card. So, while you can't go from a card to a list item, you can make changes in the opposite direction. It's up to you to decide how you want to manage and work with these tasks. Another thing that I like to do is to use tags to mark items and be able to find them. You can use the tags we saw above if they are something you will reuse frequently and have a large but limited number. It makes sense if it's something you'll use repeatedly. But if it's something specific that I want to highlight to find easily, I use the hashtag as a sign that this is a tag. I use the hashtag because in Microsoft To Do, another application in the same category that has the same tag, it becomes a hyperlink and I can find anything I have with that tag. To Do interprets the hashtag as a tag. I trust that future versions of Planner will converge so that what I have here as plain text will become a hyperlink. That when clicked will show all the cards that are linked. That's what I hope for, whether it is achieved or not. In any case, for now, I can find things that are related to specific aspects using a search. I can add a link to the cards. The only downside is that it opens a new window when I click on the link. I would prefer it to open in the same window, but it's not a big deal. At least I can link them somehow, connect several cards and continue tracing a task with other cards. And when I filter, then the limitations is that Planner looks for me here, here and here in the notes, or in the description that's big here, but it doesn't look for me in the comments. That is, when I filter, Planner searches in the notes or the extensive description here, but it doesn't in the comments. So I may lose things in the comments, and that's why I use comments in Planner. You can see this in Outlook because you have a group and can search for it there, but it's not a comfortable and intuitive way to do things. Therefore, I try to include all the relevant information I can later search for in the notes section. With this, you get an idea of some little tricks that I have used to overcome these things highlighted in orange. So practically with Planner, I can do about 80% of the things that interest me at this point. You could use Planner and even apply some tricks to do some slightly special things that would otherwise be complicated with Planner. However, I would like to insist that I am showing you Planner because it is the official task manager of my organization, not because I believe it is the best task manager. In reality, it is a relatively limited task manager. However, I am also aware that I am a person who demands a lot and has particular needs. Probably for many people, any basic task manager, even Planner, may exceed their expectations. And they may not need anything more sophisticated than what this application offers. In any case, the functioning of other task manager applications is very similar. Many of the tricks I have shared with you, except for the linking with To Do, could work similarly in other applications. Indeed, some gateways, such as Slack or other tools, allow you to give more functionality to your task manager by connecting it with more powerful tools, but without reaching that degree of sophistication. I believe you can have a handy tool for your group and function adequately.